They said no one could look at Duke Ashton Blackwell without flinching, but she saw past the scars to the man beneath. This slow-burn historical romance weaves together a Beauty and the Beast retelling with grumpy/sunshine dynamics, a forbidden class divide, and the healing power of unconditional acceptance. When a disgraced noblewoman becomes a servant in the household of England's most reclusive duke, two broken souls discover that the deepest scars aren't always visible. London, 1847. High society whispers about two fallen souls. The first is Duke Ashton Blackwell, once the most eligible bachelor in England, now a recluse hidden away in his crumbling estate on the Yorkshire moors. A fire 3 years ago left the right side of his face deeply scarred, his right hand twisted and barely functional. He dismissed his entire staff except for his butler, refusing to let anyone see what he'd become. The second is Lady Margot Ashford, daughter of a viscount, until her father's gambling debts and sudden death left her penniless. Her stepmother and stepsisters seized everything, leaving Margot with nothing but the clothes on her back and a reputation tainted by scandal. Desperate and destitute, Margot does the unthinkable. She takes a position as a maid. Not just any position, but one no one else will accept, serving the monster of Blackwell Hall. What she doesn't know is that the scarred Duke is about to change everything she thought she knew about love, worth, and second chances. Margot's hands trembled as the carriage rattled up the overgrown drive to Blackwell Hall. Rain pelted the windows, and through the gloom, the manor looked less like a home and more like something from a Gothic novel. All dark stone, broken windows, and creeping ivy. "You're sure about this, miss?" the driver asked, glancing back nervously. "They say the Duke's mad, that he screams at shadows and throws things when anyone comes near." Margot lifted her chin. She'd been raised to be brave, even when she felt anything but. "I don't have a choice." The butler who answered the door was ancient, Mr. Graves, thin as a rail with kind eyes that seemed surprised to see her. "You're here for the position?" "Yes, sir. Most don't make it past the threshold." He studied her worn dress, the way she held herself despite everything. "Lady Margot Ashford, isn't it? I remember you from your debut." Shame burned her cheeks. "I'm just Margot now, Mr. Graves." "Very well, just Margot. Follow me. His Grace will interview you himself." She followed him through halls draped in dust covers, past portraits whose eyes seemed to watch her. The house felt frozen in time, as if it had stopped breathing the night of the fire. Mr. Graves stopped outside heavy oak doors. "A word of advice, don't stare. Don't gasp. Don't show pity. He can't abide pity." Before Margot could respond, a voice came from within, deep, rough, edged with irritation. "Send her in, Graves. Let's get this over with." The study was dark despite the afternoon hour, curtains drawn tight. A single lamp burned on the massive desk, and behind it sat a figure in shadow.
"Come closer."
"I won't bite." Margot stepped forward, and as her eyes adjusted, she saw him. Duke Ashton Blackwell sat rigid in his chair, one side of his face turned away. But she could see enough, the scarring that ran from his temple down his neck, disappearing beneath his collar. His right hand rested on the desk, the fingers curled unnaturally. He was watching her with his good eye, waiting for her to flinch, to look away, to fail whatever test this was. Margot met his gaze steadily. "Your Grace." "You're not screaming," he said dryly. "That's a promising start. Most women do." "I'm not most women. Clearly. You're a lady playing at being a maid." His voice cut like a blade. "Why would someone of your station accept such a position? Don't tell me it's charity work." Margot's jaw tightened. "I need employment. You need staff. The reason shouldn't matter." "It matters to me. I don't want someone here out of pity or morbid curiosity." "Then you'll be relieved to know I'm here, because I have nowhere else to go." The words came out sharper than she intended. "My father died, my family cast me out, and apparently a scandal-touched ex-lady isn't qualified for much beyond scrubbing floors. So here I am, Your Grace."
"No pity. No curiosity.
Just desperation." Silence filled the room. Then, unexpectedly, the Duke laughed, A short, rusty sound, as if he'd forgotten how. At least you're honest. He leaned forward slightly, and the lamplight caught more of his face. The scarring was severe, yes, but his features were still strong. A sharp jaw, intense dark eyes, a mouth that might have been sensual before it learned to sneer. The position is simple. You'll clean, you'll cook when Mrs. Graves isn't available. Yes, Graves has a wife who comes twice weekly, and you'll maintain the household. You'll live in the servants' quarters. You will not gossip about me, bring visitors, or attempt conversation unless I initiate it. I understand.
Do you?
Because there's more. He turned his head fully now, letting her see the worst of the scarring. You will not look at me with pity. You will not suggest treatments or cures. You will not jump when I enter a room or make small talk about the weather to fill uncomfortable silences. You will simply do your job and leave me in peace. Can you manage that, Lady Margot? Something in his tone, the way he said her title like an insult, the bitterness beneath the arrogance, made her understand. He wasn't cruel. He was in pain. I can manage that, she said quietly, though I prefer just Margot now.
Fine.
Just Margot. You start tomorrow. Graves will show you your quarters. He waved his good hand in dismissal, already turning back to his papers. And Margot? Most don't last a week. Don't prove me right. Margot's first week at Blackwell Hall was an education in loneliness. The house was enormous, full of closed-off rooms and memories gathering dust. She worked dawn to dusk, scrubbing floors, beating carpets, polishing silver that hadn't seen use in years. The Duke was a ghost, appearing only at odd hours, always keeping to the shadows. She'd hear his footsteps late at night, pacing the halls. Sometimes she'd catch glimpses of him in the library, surrounded by books and papers, his scarred hand struggling to turn pages. He never spoke to her beyond curt instructions left on notes. The East Wing needs airing out. My study requires more lamp oil. Don't touch the piano. That last one intrigued her. The music room was locked, but through the keyhole she could see a magnificent grand piano, sheet music scattered across its surface. On her fourth day, she broke a rule. She was cleaning the portrait gallery when she paused before a painting, a young man, perhaps 25, devastatingly handsome in his formal attire. Dark hair, confident smile, no scars marring his aristocratic features. That's not me anymore.
Margot spoon.
The Duke stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. I'm sorry, Your Grace. I was just wondering what I looked like before I became a monster. He moved closer, and she noticed he walked with a slight limp she hadn't seen before. That was painted 5 years ago. I was engaged then.
Did you know that?
Lady Charlotte Pemberton. Beautiful, perfect, everything a duchess should be. Margot stayed silent, sensing he needed to speak. After the fire, she came to visit me exactly once. She took one look at my face and fainted. When she came around, she broke our engagement through her father. Couldn't even tell me herself. His laugh was hollow. Can't blame her, really. Who wants to wake up next to this for the rest of their life? Someone who actually loved you, Margot said before she could stop herself. The Duke's head snapped toward her. What did you say? I said someone who actually loved you wouldn't have cared about scars. Margot met his gaze. Beauty fades for everyone eventually, Your Grace. If she couldn't see past your face to the man you are, then she didn't deserve you in the first place. For a long moment, he simply stared at her. Then, without a word, he turned and left. Margot exhaled shakily. She'd overstepped. She'd be dismissed by morning. But morning came, and with it a new note. The music room needs dusting. When she unlocked the door, she found the piano uncovered, waiting. After that day, something shifted. The Duke didn't suddenly become warm or friendly, but the walls began to crack, just slightly. He started taking his dinner in the dining room instead of his study, though he sat at the far end of the long table, shrouded in shadows. Margot served him silently, respecting his rules about conversation. But on the 5th night he spoke. You're not eating properly. Margot paused while clearing his plate. I beg your pardon, Your Grace? You're too thin. Graves tells me you give half your portions to the stray cats by the kitchen door. He didn't look at her. That's foolish. You'll make yourself ill. The cats were hungry. So are you. He pushed a covered dish toward her.
Sit. Eat.
That's not a request. Margot hesitated, then sat at the far end of the table, maintaining the distance he seemed to need. Under the cover was beef pie, still warm, with roasted vegetables. I couldn't possibly eat your dinner, Your Grace. It's extra. Mrs. Graves always makes too much. A pause. Sit down and eat before I change my mind and fire you for insubordination. So Margot ate, and the Duke pretended to read his book, and for the first time since arriving, the dining room didn't feel quite so empty. This became their routine. Every evening, there would be extra food. Every evening, she would sit at her end of the table while he sat at his, and slowly, carefully, they began to talk. It started with safe topics, the weather, the state of the gardens, which rooms needed the most work. But gradually, carefully, the conversations deepened. Why did your family cast you out? He asked one evening. Margot set down her fork. My father's debts. My stepmother claimed there wasn't enough money for everyone. She kept my stepsisters, sent me away. That's not the whole story. She met his gaze across the long table.
No.
There was a scandal. A gentleman made advances, I refused, and he spread rumors that I'd encouraged him. Society believed him over me. My stepmother decided I was too much of a liability. And your father? Dead before it all fell apart. Heart failure. Her voice softened. Sometimes I'm glad he didn't live to see what became of me. The Duke was quiet for a long moment.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. I learned who people really were. That's valuable in its own way. Another evening, Margot dared to ask, what happened the night of the fire? His jaw tightened. You're pushing your luck, Margot. You don't have to tell me. I wondered. He stared at his scarred hand, flexing the damaged fingers. There was an accident in the stables. A lantern fell. Hay caught fire. I got the horses out, but one of the stable boys was trapped inside. Jamie, he was only 14. His voice went rough. I went back in for him. Got him out, but a beam fell. By the time they pulled me out, half my face was burned, my hand crushed. That was brave. That was stupid. Jamie was fine. I'm the one who ended up like this. He gestured bitterly at his face. The hero who became the monster. You're not a monster. Don't. The word came out sharp. Don't do that. Don't try to make me feel better about what I am. I'm not trying to make you feel anything, Margot said steadily. I'm telling you what I see. And I see a man who saved a boy's life. The scars are just proof of something good, not something shameful. The Duke stood abruptly, his chair scraping back. For a moment she thought he'd rage at her, but instead he said quietly, Good night, Margot. Good night, Your Grace. After he left, she noticed he'd left his book behind, a volume of poetry, well-worn and marked throughout. As she picked it up to return it, a pressed flower fell out. A white rose, brittle with age. She tucked it back carefully, wondering about the man behind the scars, and the heart he kept so carefully guarded. 3 weeks into her employment, Margot discovered the Duke's secret. She woke one night to music, a piano being played with heartbreaking beauty. Tentatively, she followed the sound to the music room. Through the cracked door, she saw him. Duke Ashton sat at the piano, his scarred face caught in candlelight, his damaged hand moving carefully across the keys. The music was melancholy and achingly lovely, something classical she didn't recognize. He made a mistake, swore, tried again. His scarred hand couldn't quite reach the way it used to, couldn't stretch across the keys with the same confidence. But he kept trying, kept playing, kept pouring something raw and wounded into the notes. Margot's chest tightened. This was what he did late at night, why she heard him pacing. He was fighting against his limitations, refusing to give up the one thing that still made him feel whole. She must have made a sound, because the music stopped abruptly. How long have you been standing there?
I'm sorry.
I heard the music. And you decided to spy on me? He stood, moving away from the piano as if she'd caught him at something shameful.
No.
It was beautiful, Your Grace. Truly beautiful. It was terrible. I can barely play anymore. My hand doesn't work right, the stretches are impossible, and I sound like a child learning scales. Bitterness dripped from every word. I was a concert pianist before the fire.
Did you know that?
I performed at the Royal Albert Hall. Now I can't even get through a simple sonata without fumbling. Margot stepped into the room. You played Chopin. The Nocturne in E-flat major. I recognized it. He stared at her. You know music. My mother was a pianist. She taught me before she died. Margot moved toward the piano, running her fingers over the keys. She used to say music wasn't about perfection. It was about feeling. Easy to say when your hands work properly. Is it? She met his eyes. She developed tremors in her hands the last year of her life. Early onset Parkinson's. She could barely hold a teacup, let alone play.
But she did anyway.
Not perfectly. Not like she used to. But she played because it mattered to her. The Duke sank back onto the piano bench. And what did people say when she performed imperfectly? Nothing. Because she stopped performing for other people. She played for herself. For me. For the joy of it, even when it was hard. He looked at the keys for a long moment. I haven't played for anyone since the fire. I barely play for myself. Then maybe. Margot sat beside him carefully, leaving space between them. Maybe you're playing for the wrong reasons. You're so focused on what you've lost that you can't see what you still have. And what's that? The love of it. The music itself. She played a few notes, a simple melody from a children's song. You don't have to be perfect to make something beautiful. His scarred hand reached out, hesitantly, and played the harmony to her melody. Together, haltingly, they created something lovely in the darkness. When they finished, the Duke turned to her, and for the first time, he didn't look away, didn't hide his scars. Thank you, Margot. For what? For not telling me everything will be fine. For just being here. After that night, everything changed. The Duke began leaving his study more often. He'd find her working and sometimes just sit nearby, reading or reviewing correspondence, as if her presence was something he'd begun to crave rather than tolerate. He started asking her opinion on things, which rooms should be restored first, whether the gardens were worth saving, if she thought the portrait gallery needed updating. Why are you asking me? She said one afternoon while they inspected the neglected conservatory. I'm just the maid. No, he said simply. You're not. The way he looked at her made her breath catch. There was something in his eyes, something warm and dangerous and impossible. Your Grace. Ashton. He stepped closer. When it's just us, call me Ashton. That wouldn't be appropriate. None of this is appropriate. You're a lady. You shouldn't be scrubbing my floors. And I shouldn't be. He stopped, jaw tightening. I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling. Margot's heart hammered. And what are you feeling? Don't ask me that. Don't make me say it. But he didn't move away. You should leave. Find a proper position somewhere else. A place where you're treated with the respect you deserve. I don't want to leave. You should. But I don't. She held his gaze. I'm happy here, Ashton. Happier than I've been in years. Something in his expression cracked open. Margot. The sound of the front door slamming shattered the moment. Voices echoed through the hall, loud, imperious, unmistakably aristocratic. Ashton. Brother. Where are you hiding? The Duke's face shuddered closed.
God.
It's Edmund. Your brother? My younger brother. The perfect one. He moved away from her quickly. You should go. He can't see you like this. Like what? With me. Looking at me like. He shook his head. Just go. Please. But it was too late. A man strode into the conservatory, handsome, unmarred. Everything the Duke might have been. Lord Edmund Blackwell took one look at Margot's maid's dress and his brother's protective stance and smirked. Well, well. The recluse has found himself a pet. How charming. Edmund. The Duke's voice went cold. Leave. I've only just arrived, brother. Mother sent me to check on you.
She's worried.
You never come to London, you never write. His eyes raked over Margot dismissively. Now I see why. You've been keeping yourself entertained. Watch your tongue. Or what? You'll challenge me to a duel? We both know how well that would go. Edmund's cruelty was casual, practiced. Look at you, Ashton. Hiding away with servants, playing piano in the dark, pretending you're still the man you were. It's pathetic. Margot saw Ashton flinch, saw the words hit their mark. Before she could stop herself, she stepped forward. You should leave, my lord. You're not welcome here. Edmund's eyebrows rose. The maid has opinions. How delightful. Tell me, does my brother pay you extra to pretend you don't find him revolting? Because that's quite the performance. Edmund. Ashton's voice cracked like a whip. Get out of my house.
Now.
Gladly. This place reeks of desperation anyway. But Edmund paused at the door, looking back. By the way, Charlotte is engaged. To Viscount Hartley. The wedding is next month. Mother wanted you to know. She thought you'd want to send a gift. When Edmund left, the silence was deafening. Ashton stood frozen, his scarred hand clenched into a fist. You should have let me handle him. He had no right. He had every right. The Duke's control shattered. He's right about all of it. I am pathetic. I am hiding. And you. He turned to her, anguish in his eyes. You should run as far from me as you can, Margot. Before I do something unforgivable and ruin you completely. You couldn't ruin me. I'm already ruined. Not like this. Not by association with a monster who's fool enough to... He stopped, breathing hard. Leave, Margot. That's an order.
No.
I'll fire you. Then fire me. She moved closer, bold and reckless. But I'm not leaving because your brother is cruel or because society is shallow or because you're scared of what you feel. What I feel. His laugh was broken. You have no idea what I feel. Then tell me. For a moment she thought he would. His eyes searched hers, desperate and vulnerable and achingly human. But then he turned away, shoulders rigid.
Get out, Margot.
Before I forget, I'm supposed to be a gentleman. She left, but not because he ordered it. She left because she saw what he couldn't say written all over his scarred, beautiful face. He was falling in love with her, and he thought it was the cruelest thing he could do. For 3 days, the Duke avoided her. He took meals in his study, locked himself in the library, left notes instead of speaking. The house felt colder than ever. Margot threw herself into work, but her mind kept returning to that moment in the conservatory, the way he'd looked at her, the things he'd almost said. On the 4th day, Mrs. Graves pulled her aside. His Grace isn't eating properly again, dear. Won't come out of his study. He gets like this sometimes, when the darkness takes hold. The older woman's eyes were kind. I think he could use a friend, even if he'd rather die than admit it. That evening, Margot prepared a tray and brought it to his study. She knocked once, then entered without waiting for permission. He looked up from his desk, surrounded by papers and ledgers. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. I thought I made myself clear. You did. I'm ignoring you. She set the tray down firmly. You need to eat. I'm not hungry. I don't care. She pulled up a chair and sat across from him. You can glower at me all you want, but I'm not leaving until you eat something. I could have Graves throw you out. You could, but you won't. She pushed the plate toward him. Eat, Ashton. Something in her use of his name made him soften. With a sigh, he picked up the fork. You're impossibly stubborn. I learned from the best. She watched him take a bite, then another. Why are you pushing me away? Because it's the right thing to do. For whom? For you. He set down the fork with more force than necessary. Don't you understand? I have nothing to offer you, Margot. No future, no prospects, no hope. I'm a recluse with a scarred face and a ruined hand, hiding from the world like a coward. You deserve someone whole. Someone who can give you the life you should have had. I don't want the life I should have had, she said quietly. That life was full of people who smiled to my face and gossiped behind my back. full of rules about who I could talk to, and what I could say and how I should feel. That life was a beautiful prison. And this isn't? You're a maid in a decaying mansion, serving a man society calls a monster. This is the first place I've felt free in years. She leaned forward. You don't see yourself clearly, Ashton. You think you're broken, but you're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived something that would have destroyed most people. You're still fighting, still trying, still. Still what? His voice went raw. Still hoping? For what? That somehow this ends well? That I could ever be worthy of someone like you? You are worthy. I'm not. He stood abruptly, moving around the desk. Look at me, Margot.
Really look at me. This is what I am now.
Scarred, damaged, ruined. How could you ever? He stopped, the words choking off. Margot rose, meeting him in the space between them. How could I ever what? Love me, he whispered. How could you ever love someone like me? The words hung in the air, fragile and terrible and true. Margot reached up, slowly, giving him time to pull away. When he didn't, she cupped his scarred cheek with her hand. He flinched but didn't retreat. You're right, she said softly. I couldn't love someone like you. Pain flashed across his face. I could only love you exactly as you are. Her thumb traced the edge of his scars gently. Ashton Blackwell. Scarred, stubborn, brilliant, kind. The man who saves stable boys and feeds stray cats and plays heartbreaking music in the dark. The man who gave a disgraced lady a chance when no one else would. That's who I love. Margot. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel the same way. I just needed you to know that you're not unlovable. You're not a monster. And if you push me away, it won't be because you're not enough. It'll be because you're too afraid to try. For a long moment, he simply stared at her, his expression a battlefield of hope and fear. Then, with his scarred hand trembling, he covered her hand with his own. I am afraid, he admitted, terrified. Because if I let myself have this, have you, and then lose it, I don't think I'd survive. Then don't think about losing. Just be here. With me.
Right now.
His good hand came up to cup her face, his touch achingly gentle. You're asking me to be brave. I'm asking you to be honest. Then, honestly? He leaned his forehead against hers. I've been half in love with you since you refused to flinch at my scars. And I've been completely in love with you since you played piano with me in the dark. And it terrifies me more than the fire ever did. Margot's breath caught. Ashton, let me finish. Please. His voice shook. I know this is impossible. I know society would crucify you for being with someone like me. I know I should be noble and let you go. But God help me, Margot, I don't want to. I want to be selfish. I want to keep you here, in this house, in my life, for as long as you'll stay. Then keep me. Even knowing what it would cost you? I've already lost everything else. The only thing that would cost me now is losing you. Something in his expression broke and healed all at once. Then, finally, achingly, he kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, as if he couldn't quite believe she was real. But when she kissed him back, threading her fingers through his hair, pulling him closer, the kiss deepened into something desperate and claiming. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. This is madness, he murmured. Probably. We'll both regret this. I doubt it. His laugh was soft and wondering. How are you so sure? Because I've spent my whole life doing what I was supposed to do, being who I was supposed to be, and it got me nowhere. She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. I'd rather have one real thing than a lifetime of perfect lies. Even if that one real thing comes with scars and scandal? Especially then. She smiled. Besides, I have a few scars of my own. We match. He kissed her again, softer this time, but no less meaningful. When he pulled back, there were tears in his eyes. I don't deserve you. Shut up and kiss me again. He did, and in that study surrounded by books and papers and shadows, two broken souls found something neither thought they'd ever have again. Hope. For 2 weeks, they existed in a stolen paradise. Ashton emerged from his shadows. They worked side by side restoring the house, played piano together in the evenings, talked until dawn about everything and nothing. He showed her his architectural drawings, plans to renovate an orphanage in the village, funded by his own money, but never implemented because he couldn't face going into town. "We should do it," Margot said one afternoon, studying the drawings. "The orphanage. The children need it. I can't go into town looking like this." "Then don't go as the Duke. Go as a man trying to help."
She squeezed his scarred hand.
"With me beside you." The look he gave her was full of longing and fear. "You make me want to be brave again." "You never stopped being brave. You just forgot for a while." They started small, a trip to the village to meet with the builders. Margot stayed close, her presence a shield against the stares and whispers. When children pointed and mothers gasped, she simply took Ashton's arm and smiled like nothing was wrong. By the third visit, the stares began to fade. The builder respected his plans. The village priest thanked him for his generosity. A young boy who'd been rescued from the old, crumbling orphanage ran up and hugged him, completely unafraid of his scars. "Thank you, Your Grace. My mum says we'll have heat this winter, because of you." When the boy ran off, Ashton's eyes were wet. I'd forgotten what it felt like. To be useful. To matter. "You've always mattered," Margot said fiercely. "You just couldn't see it." But paradise, as always, was temporary. The letter arrived on a gray November morning. Margot recognized the seal immediately, her stepmother's family crest. Inside was an ultimatum: come back, beg forgiveness, and agree to an arranged marriage with an aging baron who needed a young wife, or face legal action for stolen property, jewelry that had supposedly belonged to Margot, but which her stepmother claimed. "It's absurd," Margot said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I took nothing when I left." "She's lying." Ashton read the letter, his expression darkening. "This Baron Whitmore, I know of him. He's cruel. His first 2 wives died under mysterious circumstances. I won't go back. She can't make me. She can drag your name through the courts. Make your life hell." He set down the letter carefully. "Unless." "Unless what?" His eyes met hers, burning with something fierce and desperate. "Unless you're married to someone else. Someone whose rank supersedes hers. Someone she can't touch." Margot's breath caught. "Ashton, marry me." The words tumbled out, raw and urgent. "I know it's mad. I know I'm not what you dreamed of. But I can protect you, Margot. I can give you my name, my home, my fortune, everything I have. And you'd never have to go back to her again. You don't have to do this." "I want to." He took both her hands, scarred and unscarred together. "I love you. I think I've loved you since the moment you looked at my face and didn't flinch. Since you played piano with me and fed stray cats and told me I wasn't a monster. Marry me, not because you have to,
Because you want to.
because you love me too." Tears spilled down Margot's cheeks.
Yes.
"Yes, of course yes." He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only solid thing in his world. "I'll make you happy. I swear it. Every day for the rest of our lives, I'll make you happy. You already do." They married quietly in the village church 3 days later. Mr. and Mrs. Graves stood as witnesses. The priest, who'd known Ashton since childhood, smiled throughout the ceremony. Ashton wore black except for a white rose in his buttonhole, Margot's favorite. He'd stopped hiding his scars, stopped turning his face away. When he said his vows, his voice rang clear and strong. "I, Ashton Edward Blackwell, take you, Margot Elizabeth Ashford, to be my wife. I promise to love you in light and darkness, in joy and sorrow, in sickness and health. I promise to see you, truly see you, every day of our lives. I promise to be worthy of the gift you've given me, the gift of loving me despite everything." Margot's vows were simpler, but no less profound. "I, Margot Elizabeth Ashford, take you, Ashton Edward Blackwell, to be my husband. I promise to love every part of you, scarred and whole, shadow and light. I promise to remind you of your worth when you forget. I promise to play piano with you in the dark and walk beside you in the light. And I promise that every day you'll know you're loved exactly as you are. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, Ashton cupped her face with both hands, scarred and unscarred, and kissed her like she was his salvation. Back at Blackwell Hall, they found the staff had decorated the dining room with candles and flowers. Mrs. Graves had prepared a feast.
Even old Mr. Graves was smiling.
To the Duke and Duchess, he toasted. May you have a lifetime of happiness. That night, in Ashton's chambers, their chambers now, he was nervous. I haven't been with anyone since the fire. If I disappoint you, Margot silenced him with a kiss. You could never disappoint me. My scars go further than my face, he warned softly. Down my neck, across my shoulder and chest. They're not. They're part of you. That's all that matters. She helped him out of his jacket, his waistcoat, his shirt. The scarring was extensive, angry red tissue that twisted across his shoulder and down his arm. But beneath it was still him. Still the man she loved. She pressed a kiss to his scarred shoulder. Beautiful. Margot. Every part of you is beautiful to me. And when he made love to her that night, gentle and reverent and achingly tender, she showed him what she'd been trying to say all along, that he was worthy of love, worthy of touch, worthy of everything. Afterward, lying tangled together in the darkness, he whispered, I never thought I'd have this. Any of this. Neither did I. She traced patterns on his chest. Funny how losing everything led me to the one thing I actually needed. And what's that? You. She kissed him softly. Just you. They had exactly 2 weeks of perfect happiness before the storm arrived. It came in the form of Margot's stepmother, Lady Ashford, and her 2 stepsisters, along with Baron Whitmore himself and a solicitor. You can't keep them out, the solicitor insisted to Mr. Graves. Lady Ashford has legal claims to discuss with her stepdaughter. Ashton appeared in the doorway, every inch the Duke, his scarred face set in aristocratic disdain. My wife is not receiving visitors. You may leave. Lady Ashford's eyes widened. Wife. She married you. I had that pleasure, yes. But you're... She gestured vaguely at his face, unable to finish. Scarred? Yes. Also wealthy, titled, and considerably higher ranking than you. His voice could have cut glass. Which means any claims you have against my wife are now claims against me. I suggest you reconsider. Baron Whitmore stepped forward, a corpulent man in his 60s with cold eyes. Now see here, Blackwell. The girl was promised to me. Her stepmother and I had an arrangement. The girl is my wife and a duchess. You have no claim. I have a contract. Signed by whom? Margot is of age and was never anyone's ward. Any contract you have is worthless. Ashton's smile was dangerous. Leave my property. Now. But Lady Ashford wasn't finished. You think you're so clever, hiding away with a monster of Yorkshire? Society will never accept this marriage. You'll be ruined all over again, Margot. Is that what you want? Margot appeared beside her husband, her hand finding his. Society already ruined me once. I survived. But this time, I have something I didn't have before. And what's that? Someone who actually loves me. Someone worth fighting for. She lifted her chin. You threw me away like garbage. He saw my worth. That's the difference between you and him. One of the stepsisters sneered. Worth? You're a maid. You scrub floors. I was a maid, Margot corrected. Now I'm a duchess. And unlike you, I earned my place through honesty and hard work, not manipulation and cruelty. Lady Ashford's face went purple. You ungrateful. Enough. Ashton's voice cracked like a whip. You have 10 seconds to leave before I have you removed. And if you ever contact my wife again, ever attempt to slander her name or make claims against her, I will use every resource at my disposal to destroy you socially, financially, and legally. Am I understood? The threat from a duke, even a reclusive one, was not to be taken lightly. Lady Ashford gathered her dignity and her entourage and left, but not before throwing one last barb. You'll regret this, Margot. When you're trapped in this moldering house with that creature, when society shuns you completely, you'll remember you could have had better. Margot's response was calm and devastating. I already have better. Better than you ever deserved. Goodbye, stepmother. When they were gone, Ashton pulled Margot into his arms. Are you all right? I'm perfect. You were magnificent. I was terrified they'd take you away. Never. She held him tighter. You're stuck with me now, Your Grace. Good. He kissed her forehead. Because I have no intention of letting you go. But later that night, Margot found him in the music room, staring at the piano. What's wrong? She was right. About society shunning you. About you being trapped here. He wouldn't look at her. You married me to escape one prison. I've just given you another. Ashton. I'm serious, Margot. You'll never go to balls. Never be accepted in London society. Never have the life. I don't want that life. She turned his face toward her, forcing him to meet her eyes. How many times do I have to tell you? I don't want ballrooms and false friends and shallow conversations. I want this. I want you. I want the orphanage we're building and the music we play and the life we're making together. That's not a prison. That's freedom. You say that now. I'll say it every day for the rest of our lives if that's what it takes for you to believe me. She took his scarred hand and placed it over her heart. Feel that? My heart beats for you. Not for society. Not for what I've lost. For you. Just you. Always you. His eyes filled with tears. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You saved a stable boy. You played music in the dark. You gave a disgraced woman a chance. She smiled. You were yourself. That's all you ever needed to be. Winter turned to spring, and with it came transformation. The orphanage was completed, a beautiful building with heat, proper beds, and a schoolroom. At the opening ceremony, Ashton gave a speech without hiding his face, and the villagers applauded not out of pity, but respect. He began attending church regularly, sitting in the Blackwell family pew with Margot beside him. At first people stared, then they nodded, then they smiled. One Sunday, the stable boy he'd saved, Jamie, now 17, approached them after service. Your Grace, I wanted to thank you for what you did, for saving my life. Ashton's throat worked. You don't need to thank me. I do, sir. Because of you, I got to grow up, got to learn a trade, got to have a life. Jamie's eyes were earnest. Some people say you're scary looking, but I think your scars make you look like a hero, because that's what you are. After Jamie left, Ashton stood very still. Are you all right? Margot asked softly. I think I might be. He looked at her with wonder. For the first time since the fire, I think I might actually be all right. Spring brought another surprise. A letter from London. From the Royal Philharmonic Society. They want me to perform, Ashton said, staring at the paper in disbelief. At a benefit concert for wounded soldiers. They heard about the orphanage, about me playing again. They think having a performer who overcame injury would be inspiring. Will you do it? Fear and longing warred in his expression. I don't know if I can. Playing for you, for myself, that's one thing. But performing in front of hundreds of people? Looking like this? Playing imperfectly? Margot took his hand. Do you remember what you told me the night we met? That I shouldn't do things out of pity or obligation. Yes. Then don't do this for them. Do it for you. Do it because you love music and you miss performing, and you have something to say. She smiled. And do it because you're ready to stop hiding. 3 months later, they traveled to London together. The concert hall was packed. Ashton waited backstage, his scarred hand trembling. I can do this. Yes, you can. Margot straightened his collar. Because you're the bravest man I know. And because I'll be right there in the front row, loving you through every note. What if I fail? Then you'll fail in front of people who paid to support wounded soldiers. You'll fail while doing something courageous. And I'll still love you exactly the same. He walked onto that stage, head high, scars visible in the stage lights. The audience gasped. Some whispered. Then the whispers faded to silence. Ashton sat at the piano, positioned his hands, scarred and whole, and began to play. He chose Beethoven's pathetic sonata, melancholy, passionate, perfect for his limited range. His damaged hand struggled with some passages, forcing him to adapt, to improvise. But what he played was raw and honest, and achingly beautiful. When he finished, the silence stretched for an eternal moment. Then the audience erupted. Not polite applause, but a standing ovation that went on and on. People were crying. Soldiers with missing limbs, women who'd lost husbands, anyone who'd ever felt broken and wondered if they could be whole again. Ashton looked at Margot in the front row, tears streaming down her face, and he smiled. Truly smiled for the first time since the fire. After the concert, people crowded around him. Not to gawk, but to thank him. A veteran missing an arm clasped his shoulder. You showed us it's possible, Your Grace. To live with loss and still create something beautiful. A young woman with burned scars on her hands touched his sleeve shyly. I stopped playing violin after my accident. But hearing you tonight, maybe I could try again. You should, Ashton said firmly. Don't let anything steal your music. That night, in their London hotel, Margot found him standing at the window, looking out at the city. What are you thinking? She asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. That I was dead for 3 years, and you brought me back to life. He turned to face her. That I spent so long being afraid of what people would think, I forgot what it felt like to actually live. And now I'm ready to live. Really live. With you. He cupped her face gently. Thank you, Margot. For seeing past the scars. For loving me when I couldn't love myself. For making me remember who I was supposed to be. You don't need to thank me. You did the hard work. You chose to be brave. We chose together. He kissed her softly. Everything good in my life now, I owe to you. You owe it to yourself. I just reminded you it was there. They returned to Blackwell Hall as different people than they'd left. Ashton began accepting social invitations, not all of them, but enough. He joined committees, consulted on charitable projects, used his title and wealth to help people instead of hiding from them. The house came alive again. They hosted small gatherings, musicians, artists, writers who cared more about substance than appearance. The music room rang with sound. The gardens bloomed under Margot's care. 1 year after their wedding, Margot discovered she was pregnant. I'm terrified, Ashton admitted that night, his hand resting on her still flat stomach. What if our child is frightened of my face? What if our child will grow up knowing you as Papa, as the man who builds orphanages and plays piano and loves with his whole heart? Margot covered his hand with hers. They'll know your scars are proof that you're a hero. And they'll love you for exactly who you are, just like I do. Their daughter was born on a spring morning, perfect and healthy and loud. When Ashton held her for the first time, tears streaming down his scarred face, she reached up and touched his cheek with her tiny hand. See, Margot whispered. Not afraid. Never afraid. She's perfect, he breathed. Absolutely perfect. She's ours. They named her Eleanor Rose. Eleanor for Margot's mother. Rose for the white roses that bloomed in the garden, for the pressed flower in Ashton's book, for new beginnings. 2 years later, when Eleanor took her first steps, she walked straight to her father, laughing as he scooped her up. She traced his scars with curious fingers, the way she'd done since she was born, completely unbothered by what had once made others flinch. Papa, she said clearly. Music? Ashton looked at Margot, his eyes bright. She wants to play piano. Then teach her. So he did. He sat her on his lap at the piano, his scarred hand guiding her small fingers over the keys, teaching her the same way his own father had taught him. And Margot watched from the doorway, her hand resting on her stomach where their second child grew, and thought about how beautifully life could surprise you. How the things you thought were endings could be beginnings. How love could find you in the darkest places. How scars could be proof not of what you'd lost, but what you'd survived. 5 years after that first interview, Margot stood in the portrait gallery, watching the artist make final touches on their family portrait. Ashton sat in the center, handsome in his formal attire, his scars rendered with the same careful detail as the rest of him, neither hidden nor exaggerated, simply part of who he was. Eleanor, now 7, stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Their son Thomas, 3, sat on Margot's lap, grinning impishly. "It's perfect," Margot said when the artist finished. The painting would hang beside the one of young, unmarred Ashton, a reminder of who he'd been and who he'd become. Both versions of himself, both worthy of remembering. That evening, as they tucked the children into bed, Eleanor asked, "Papa, why do people sometimes stare at your face?" Ashton glanced at Margot, then sat on the edge of his daughter's bed. "Because I look different from other people. I was hurt in a fire, and it left scars." "Does it make you sad?" "Sometimes. But mostly I'm grateful." "Why?" He touched her cheek gently. "Because if I hadn't been hurt, I might never have met your mama. And if I hadn't met your mama, I wouldn't have you or Thomas. So the scars gave me everything that matters most." Eleanor considered this seriously. "I think your scars are nice. They make you look brave." After she drifted off, Ashton found Margot on the balcony, looking out at the moonlit gardens. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her. "About the day I came here. How terrified I was. How desperate." She leaned back against him. "How I thought my life was over. And now I know it is just the beginning." She turned in his arms. 5 years ago, everyone laughed when I was given to the scarred Duke. They thought it was a tragedy. What do you think it was?" She smiled, reaching up to trace the scars she'd kissed 1,000 times. "The greatest gift I ever received.
You. Us.
This life we've built.
No regrets.
Not one. You." He kissed her, soft and lingering. "My only regret is that I wasted 3 years hiding before you came along and reminded me how to live. Then we won't waste any more time." "Agreed." He pulled her closer. "I love you, Margot Blackwell. Every day more than the last. I love you too, Ashton. Scars and all. Always scars and all." And in the moonlight, on the balcony of Blackwell Hall, the scarred Duke and his Duchess held each other close. Two people who'd lost everything and found, in each other, something far more valuable than what they'd left behind. They found acceptance, healing, purpose. They found home. But most of all, they found love, the kind that sees past surfaces to souls, the kind that chooses courage over comfort, the kind that proves, beyond any doubt, that the deepest beauty often lies beneath the scars. Thank you so much for watching. If Ashton and Margot's story touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me, what was your favorite moment in their love story? Should I create more historical romances like this? Which trope should I explore next? Enemies to lovers, fake dating, or forbidden romance? If you love this story, please hit that like button. It helps more romance lovers find these tales. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. I post romance audiobooks every week. Your support means everything to this channel. Every like, comment, and share helps me create more of the romance stories you love. Until next time, may you find your own epic love story, scars and all. Sweet dreams, and happy reading!